Welcome to today's Software AG webcast titled, Are You Ready for the New NaturalONE Editor? Today's webcast will be presented by Patrick Gould, Chief IT Architect at Software AG. As we move through today's presentation, I invite and encourage you to submit any questions that you may have via the Q&A box, which is located in the top right corner of your webcast dashboard. We will address your questions at the end of today's program. In the event that we're not able to answer your question, your submission will be recorded, and today's presenter will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. Additionally, today's presentation is being recorded. This program recording will be made available to you in an email that will be sent to you later this evening. It will also be posted to the Database and Natural playlist on the Software AG YouTube channel later today. Before I turn today's presentation over to Patrick, I would like to briefly introduce you to Software AG. Software AG helps companies with their digital transformation. With Software AG's digital business platform, companies can better interact with their customers and bring them on new digital journeys, promote unique value propositions, and create new business opportunities. In the Internet of Things market, Software AG enables enterprises to integrate, connect, and manage IoT components, as well as analyze data and predict future events based on artificial intelligence. The digital business platform is built on decades of uncompromising software development, IT experience, and technological leadership. Software AG has more than 4,500 employees, is active in 70 countries, and had revenues of €879 million in 2017. With that, it is now my pleasure to welcome Patrick Gould.
Good morning, everybody. Good day to somebody else. My name is Patrick Gould, and I do apologize. I do have my yearly head cold. So if I sound a little stuffy, it is that I am a little stuffy. So I'm going to do my best to be as clear as possible. What we're here to do today is to show you the Natural Editor that is part of NaturalONE and the easiest way to use that and get comfortable with it. So I'm going to start off just with an architecture slide to show you how NaturalONE fits into the architecture of Natural itself. We've all been working with Natural for many, many years, and it's not that much of a change at all. So down the bottom of my drawing is the Natural. That would be your Natural running on your server environment like the Mainframe, Linux, Unix, Windows, etc. And then on our desktops, we have installed NaturalONE, which is a Eclipse-based product. So NaturalONE is actually a plug-in to Eclipse. And then on our Natural Server environment, we've installed something called the Natural Development Server. And what the Natural Development Server allows us to do, on the Mainframe, it starts as a subtask of Natural, and it allows us to map to it via an IP address and a port number, and we can get to that specific Natural library that we're looking for on the Mainframe and start working within NaturalONE with the editor working on the Mainframe. So I'll give you a few seconds just to visualize this architecture, and then if you have any questions, we can always come back to this architecture slide. But it'll be a good thing if you can actually understand the slide and what's actually happening when we start working with the Natural code. So what I hope you will learn today, and that's my intention, is to show you that once you have NaturalONE installed on your desktop, how to map to the Natural Development Server. So how do we do that from within the Eclipse architecture? I want you to understand the previous slide, because if you understand that, there's not much difference to the NaturalONE piece, except that you now have a really, really modern editor with all the bells and whistles you could possibly ever want. You'll be able to go home to your grandchildren, your children, and show them how fancy you are with this fancy new editor that they're probably using at college or at school at this stage. So it's a little invigorating, makes you feel young again, but that's what I feel when I use it. So part of that, I'll be showing you how to add the Natural libraries to a new Eclipse project. I want to show you how to edit existing code in the Eclipse project. And I want to show you how you would create, say, a new program in the Eclipse project. And always remember, the Eclipse project itself is your Natural library sitting up on your F user. So don't think of it as anything else. I'm going to show you how to compile and run your code. I'd like to show you how to set some common Eclipse preferences that make sense when you're editing. A couple of tips on how to be more comfortable with the NaturalONE Editor. I'm going to show you all the links that we have on our website to the NaturalONE training, and then some little video clips on how to get going. And then, of course, I want to show you how working in an Eclipse project becomes the foundation for DevOps. At some stage, your company's institutions will be implementing DevOps. They probably have already for other programming languages like like Java and .NET. And I sort of show you how NaturalONE is already ready for that once you make that decision to integrate Natural with the DevOps environment. So let's move on to the next slide. This is our Natural product homepage. So if you go to softwareag.com and you go to the Products tab, there are now a whole lot of resources out there for you to be able to get familiar with NaturalONE DevOps itself. You'll see each one of these. There's tutorials for NaturalONE. There's tutorials for NaturalONE and DevOps. There's all the training that is available. And I do actually have a separate slide here to show you that there's some courses coming up that you can register for already. And also this is where you can download the community versions of the software. So it's all out there. These videos don't require you to use YouTube. So if your company does not allow you to use YouTube, you can watch these videos right here from this website. These presentations will be sent out to you, but here we just have some NaturalONE training that's available in December and February. They're both virtual classrooms, and they are times here for Central. And then, of course, you can either be called this 800 number or there's a link you can get to. I have the NaturalONE webpage out here, a link. Of course, all our webinars are recorded. So this is the link for you to be able to go and see what's been done this year so far. And then, of course, the link to the tech community, which probably most of you are already members of, and that will show you how to get to those community edition downloads. And then, of course, myself and Becky always would like you to ask us to come out there and do health checks for you. They're free. They're worth it to both of us, you and the customer, us and the customer. So if you really want one, please let us know. We probably do about 20 of those a year, and we have been doing that probably for the last 10, 15 years so far. So now let's get on to the actual reason we're here today, and that's for me to show you how I think might be the quickest way for you to learn to use the NaturalONE Editor. So I'm going to break out of this PowerPoint, and I'm going to go to my NaturalONE, which is already up and running. So this is what you will be working with when you work with Natural now. This is Eclipse. And this would have been accessed by me going to my Start button and choosing the Software AG Designer. So that's how I would have opened up the screen that I have in the background now. It would have prompted me for a workspace. I would have told them which one I want to work. And from that point in time, I'm going to be working in a workspace. And you can actually see the workspace up here at the top. You can see exactly which folder the workspace is in. And that's a generic Eclipse thing. It's got nothing to do with anything else. That's just how it's organized within the folders. Once you get into Eclipse, all of these little views would have been empty if this was the first time you were using it. And Eclipse is known for the different pieces as being perspectives. So we're in the NaturalONE perspective here. And you can see that by this little icon over here, that's NaturalONE. So if you ever get lost in another perspective, you can just come up here into the right-hand corner and go to the perspective you want to be in. So the first thing you're going to do once you've actually started up NaturalONE is you're going to want to map to your development server, as in that architecture. And the way to do that is to know the IP address and the port number of that Natural Development Server. So when I push the map button over here, it's going to give me a little wizard GUI. I'm going to give it the IP address of my mainframe server. I'm going to give the port number it's listening on, and I'm going to give it the host name. And of course, any profile parameters that I am allowed to override at startup time, I'll be able to put those in the session parameters over here. And then, of course, I'll be able to give my natural security user ID and password. Once I've done that, I will see in my server view down here, my mainframe link, and I'm going to see all the natural libraries that are within that F user. And remember, these you can filter. If you want to filter these down just to certain names, very easy to do is to set up filters over here. But I'm going to be working with a library called SAG, very generic. And for me now to start working with this library, I would come over here and I'd right-click on it and I would say add to either a new project that I've never ever added before, or I'd add it to an existing project. So I wanted to make our time very valuable here today. So I've already done this, and I've moved my objects up into my local project. So you'll see up here I have the same SAG, DAE, HQ over here. So I know that these libraries that are sitting underneath this project over here belong to the mainframe purely by the properties of this library over here. So I'll know that this belongs to the mainframe. So I'm mapped to a mainframe environment in this particular instance. And then as I go down, this is my natural library, software AG. In my system library, I have my DDMs that I want to work with. And it's as simple as if I want to start working with a program, I've been asked to do an update, some maintenance work on a program, I would come over here and I would just drag this into the editor. So this view I'm in, so perspective is broken down into a whole lot of views. So the view I'm in here right now is the actual editor view. You'll see in the right-hand side here, I have an outline view. So right up front, you can see there's a different way that I can actually navigate through my program. This is a high-level way to navigate to a particular statement. If I want to go and say, do some work on this decide first statement, I don't have to go up and down in the program because this could be a very long program. So I can just go down over here and it will take me to that particular line of code that I want to say maybe start adjusting and adding some new syntax to. I'm going to show you the map editor, and to me the outline view is always the most effective in the outline view because you can get to a particular field that you want to work with very easily from within the natural map editor. Another very, very valuable view is the dependencies view. So this particular program that I have in the editor right now is using all of these different objects, and I can actually see what libraries they're in, and they are all defined. So I can see that this particular program is using this particular map. So if I wanted to open up this map, I could just double click on that one and it should open up the map for me in the editor window. Now one of the nice things with working within a GUI editor, of course everything you can just resize, you can do whatever you want, and this is all just Eclipse. So one of the things I could do is I could just drag the two windows and I could have them side by side if I wanted to. Probably more valuable when you've got two different pieces of code and you're trying to do some compares. You might want to have the two programs open up at the same time. So these little dependencies work both ways. It's always going to show who am I calling, and then if I go down to the map itself, it's going to show who calls my map. So it's very valuable, little bit of dependencies that you don't have in the mainframe unless you're doing something like an else basic or whatever. This is just a GUI where you can go across to the side and go and find all the objects that are required for this. So I'm going to close this map now because I just wanted to show you a little bit about the features of the editor. It is a free-form editor. You don't have to do a .c and a .i and a R or whatever to repeat a line. It's all free form. We have our line numbers on the left-hand side here. Eclipse is quite simple. If you don't want to see the line numbers, you can just go switch them off. If I want to switch them on, I can just switch them on. You'll see one of the features is folding. So anything that has little minus sign over here, if I take the cursor and place it over the little minus sign, it will show me what has been unfolded or folded. And then I can just fold programs as it makes more sense to me. And then I can just open them up. Other thing I want to show you about the editor itself, let's say I'm working in this editor here and I actually want to add a new line of code. I don't have to do a .I can just do an enter and I'm going to get a blank line. So from this point I could maybe start typing a new statement, and I type MO and I can't remember what goes after that. So what I do is I do control space. So this is going to show you that NaturalONE can do code completion. And all I do is go and double click on the move, and now I can tap my space, and now I want to pick up a field from a view. So I can do EMP, for instance. I can do control space again, and I can pick up the view that I want to move data from. So if I double click on here, and then the IntelliSense comes into play when I put a period over here, it's going to pop up all the different fields that I could actually are valid. So this is typical type of editor that you see in Java or say .NET. All of those features have been built into NaturalONE. So it makes coding pretty simple. And I don't want to say that, I was just giving you an example. So I can just go in here, I can highlight that, and I can delete it, right? And now I'm back to where I was. You did notice how the error pops up. So as soon as I type something invalid in my program, it's going to show me little red arrows. On the left-hand side, if I hover over that, it's going to show me what the actual error number is. And what else is nice is it shows me all errors that are actually applicable right now. And if I went down over here and pressed on there, it's going to take me to that particular statement and show me that's also in error. So instead of having to sometimes fix an error one by one, you can go back and just fix some more. So that was a mistake, so I can go and undo my typing. It's got the undo button, which is very nice. So if I want to go something weird I just put in there, I can do that. The other nice part it has is just I'm a brand new programmer, just out of college. I've just been to my first NaturalONE training and I've forgotten how to code or do a move statement. I can just put my cursor over a move statement and the editor help will open up over here and I can go and see for myself how to do the move statement. All very simple little ways to work with code. The other nice thing is, let's say I want to comment out a little bit of code because I don't want the statement to actually execute right now. I can just go in here, I can do a right click, and I can say add comment lines. So automatically it's going to comment, and of course errors are going to come up all over the place because I've gone and commented out something that I shouldn't have uncommented, and I can just go back and remove the comment line. So pretty easy way to add comment lines. One of the nice things as well, if we're adding, say, a new line of code, and I'm going over here, and I say then, and I hit enter, and I go back here, and I type a move statement, for instance. Oh, it went to full screen. That's another nice feature. Toggles. So I put in my move statement in here, and you can see it's out of line. So I can just go over here, and I can say struct, and he's just going to move that. That struct is a preference, so I can change that to be the break that I want it to be. 2 characters, 3 characters, 4 characters. That's up to me. So that's, to me, those are the main highlights of the editor. But let's say I have actually made a change to this program, and I now want to compile it and run it. So let's just say I just add a comment line here. what I can do now is I can go hit the Save button. So in a normal GUI editor, I can go across here, I find my little disk, and I hit the Save button. And you can see that this particular program has now some label decorations right next to it. So these are something where I can now break in and show you preferences. So I want to show you one or two of the preferences that I always set when I work within NaturalONE. So I can go up here to my window, and I can go to Preferences. Now this is going to be all the preferences for Eclipse, and generally I'm only interested in the Software AG preferences. So if I come down here, I'm going to see all the preferences that are relative to Software AG products that are installed on this instance of NaturalONE. So if I go to Natural, the one I think you should always switch on, especially when you're learning for the first time to work with NaturalONE and the Natural Editor, is mark this console output. By default, it is not marked. So put a little tick mark in there, and what that does is every time you do something inside of Natural and you're talking to the mainframe server, you can see exactly what's going on down in this little console. It has a little bit of overhead while you're still learning, so it'll slow a little bit, but not insignificantly. And you'll then be, once you know it, you'll basically turn that off because you'll understand exactly what's happening. The other one I like to use is on the project. There's this how to handle missing objects, and this is what it does with dependencies. If you don't, say, upload all programs into your local project, and they have dependencies, and you want to resolve those dependencies, there's three options here. You can ignore them, you can read from server, you can download from server. I do read from server, and then it just reads them into memory and takes away and suffices the non-dependency for you. And then, of course, we just did some label decorations, so I'm just going to work on those few little preferences. Little tip, when you work within Eclipse and you want to find something in preferences, you basically just go to this little thing here and you can type label decorations. And I know I was talking about label decorations for Software AG. I can see that there for other things, so I can just go down here under Software AG Natural Appearance and click on label decorations. So I saved that program, and it has a little @ sign and a little % sign in there. I actually go and see what that means. It's telling me I need to actually compile this program, and it's telling me to upload that program to the server. So basically what's saying at this point in time, this little version of this program is different to the one on the F user. So there's different ways I could compile this program. There's a couple of buttons up here where I can update the selected objects. I can build them. So when we're working in local mode and we talk about stowing a program, we're actually going to be using what is known as a build. So build is a stow. So forget about stow, it's build. No, I'm just joking. You'll actually see down here in the console, it'll say stow. But the way I'd stow this program is another option is to go right-click here, I go into NaturalONE, and I say, please build this natural project. And you'll see my label decorations will go away, and you'll see the console is telling me exactly what's going on. It's logging onto my library, and it's going to actually do the stow of the program. And my label decorations have now disappeared. So I'd now like to see if this program still works. There's different ways to do that as well, to run it. But I'm going to come over here, I'm going to right-click it, and I can go run it as a natural application. So run the natural application, and now what's going to happen is the natural I/O view is going to open up and show me my program running. So now we have a green screen input using map statement that has now been transformed into a web page. So what NaturalONE does is, through its I/O technology, it actually does dynamic HTML terminal emulation. So this is your green screen, and we actually have converted it into an HTML screen. And if I want to see if it works, I can just type in N over here, for instance, and I can go and read my database file. So this is reading the employees file, and this just shows you that my natural program is working. So at this stage, I'm ready to go. I can now, I've made my change, say to my program, I can now terminate the session because it's done. I can close it out, and I can go and probably work on the next program. So what I wanted to go do now is I think that's enough of me showing you just the natural editor. Of course, you're going to learn a lot more as you get going. My main point here was just to make it show you how simple it is actually to use the editor. It's not that scary. It works. You'll get used to it very, very quickly, and in the end, I believe you'll become a lot more productive. So the second thing I thought I would show you is how to use the map editor. So again, we could either go drag the map editor in from here, or I could go over here and double-click it like I did earlier and bring in the map editor. Now, this is a truly WYSIWYG editor now. And as I said, the outline is really good over here. So let's say I wanted to go to a particular field on the map called last name. It's going to take me, that's a text field, but anyway, it just takes me all the way to that particular field. I can see the properties of it here. I could go change the properties. I could change what row it is, etc. And I could work with my map. I have two ways to add new fields to the map. Let's say I want to do a text constant. I could take this text constant, I could highlight it, and then I could click it anywhere within the screen. And now I have a new field on the map. For a data field, same thing. Over here, I could add the data field. Now, if I didn't want to type in things, I have, of course, the ability to import fields into the map. So I can import data fields, and that can be anything from any object I want, program, subroutine, whatever, and I could pull in the fields that I want to pull in from an existing object. So all of these features are there. There's nothing in the editor that you cannot do. So everything here is available to you to use. So that now is the map editor, and I hope you find it as easy as I do. Very simple to use. And you'll basically see again your fields were down here, and again it's a field name. If I pulled in a field, of course, that would have been the field that I pulled in from that particular DDM, etc. So I can close this now, but I don't want to save the changes because my map works, and if I save it, we know that map is not going to work, so I don't want to save the changes. Quick little sip of water. So we're back to the Natural Editor. I've now shown you how to use the Natural Editor, and I've shown you how to use the Map Editor. Now, another very, very nice feature of working in a GUI environment, I think, is this feature here, where I can take a DDM, and I don't have to go and say I wanted to see particular data on this DDM because I want to start creating some test syntax data to check my program. Normally, in the old days, I would have had to go and write a little program, redisplay. What I have the ability to do here is take the DDM by itself, right-click on it, and I can go and say, browse data. This is any valid DDM, whether it's DB2, whether it's Oracle, makes no difference. I can go and browse the data. One of the requirements, of course, is I got to give it a name. Then I can do finish. And then I have the ability to go and choose fields for this. And for some reason, I'm getting, let's close this. Maybe it's just giving me a hard time. Demigods, they're back. So now I can go mark the fields that I want to see. I want to see ISN. I want to see first name. I want to see city, I want to see department and job title. I could then go to the report itself. I'll be able to tell it how I want to read, any super descriptors, descriptors that I want to use to read. I can limit the number of rows I want to see, and then, of course, all I have to do is go and create the report. So he's going to go off to my mainframe database, read my data for me, and give it to me in a report format. So it's a little bit squashed here in the corner. So here's another feature of Eclipse that is fun. Any one of these views you see, if you want to make it full screen, you just place your cursor inside there, and then you can double click, and it'll make it the full screen. And then, of course, I could then sort these out into any sequence I want. So a very, very quick way to go and find your data that you want to use. And if I double click again, it's going to take me back to where I was. One of the other ones you always want to learn as a good tip in NaturalONE is if you do ever get your whole screen messed up and you don't know where you are, just go to perspective and reset perspective, and he will take you back to the original view you had the first time you opened up NaturalONE. So that's always a good thing to understand and how to use that. So now we're back to where we were, got my report, it's going to ask me if I want to save it. No, I do not want to save it. But the nice part, if you do save it, it actually stores it out here in a folder called RES, which is resources. So if you've created yourself a little complex report and you don't feel like even going through the simple way to do it every time, you can just save them off here in your resource folder. One of the other very nice features, and I know there's lots of features, but I do like them all, is the debugger. So if I want to debug a program, it's as simple as right-clicking as if I was going to run it, and instead of doing a run as a natural application, I do a debug as a natural application. Take my cursor across here and debug as a natural application. What happens here without me even asking, it changes perspective from the NaturalONE perspective. It has changed me over to the debug perspective. And what it does is it places me on the first line of executable code. So here is my program, there's my outline, and there's my console. Again, your console will always tell you exactly what's going on. I'm debugging SAG. This program name over here, debugger, is actually currently running right now. Over here are all my variables, both my system and my local variables are all available to me inside this folder over here. I mean, not this folder, this little view over here. And if I want to start debugging this program, it's as simple as I have the options to be able to step into the code, I have the ability to step over code. In this case here, I just want to step into the code. So it'll go from first line to second line. As I set a variable, you're going to see that actual variable is now sitting in this value over here. So let's say this was something I was really wanting to do some syntax checking against. I can change the value of this if I want to. I just wanted to change it to that word. I could do an OK here. So basically, for the rest of this session, it's going to think that this title is actually employee maintain nat. And after that, I could either also set a breakpoint. When I would step into it, it would go all the way to a breakpoint. You can set watch points. And then, of course, you can manipulate the natural stack. So if you have anything in the stack that you want to manipulate and change before you step through the program, you have that ability too. So I would just keep stepping through here, and it's just going to go through each line of code and allow me to debug my program. Very simple. And with NaturalONE, you actually have two debuggers. You have this debugger, and you also actually have a remote debugger. And a remote debugger will allow you to debug your JCL, your batch natural, your CICS natural. I'm not going to cover that today, just letting you know that NaturalONE will allow you to do that kind of debugging as well. So I've debugged enough now. I want to stop the debugger. I'll basically terminate the debugger. You'll see down here it's going to terminate. And now I can go back to my NaturalONE editor. So the last thing I wanted to show you is how you would create a new object. So let's close this out. So I want to create a brand new program on the mainframe. So what I would do is, over here I'm already everything on the source library. I'll go up to File, I'll go to New, and I have all these different things that I could create. Okay. And I'm going to give it a name, Webinar, and I don't want it to be a reporting mode program, I want it to be structured mode programming. So, structured, I do finish, and there is my program. Freeform editor again, I can go down to this line over here, I can hit enter, and I can go and write a very, very complex natural program and say, hello world. Believe it or not, I can still code every now and then. And you see the error remains there until I've done with the line completion. So now if I save this program, I'm going to save it. I'm then going to do a build because I need the program to actually be running on my F user as a compiled version. So I can just go here, NaturalONE build natural project, and he's going to compile that program down onto my F user, and you can actually watch this down here happening in the console. It's going to show you what it's doing. My little label decorators have gone. This program is now ready to go. And if I want to test that it works again, I'm going to go and run it as a natural application. But again, now we'll go and use the Tomcat server inside of Eclipse to convert my little write statement into HTML. And there is my hello program executed. So I think that basically comes close to the end of the demo. Just a few things else that make sense and why the natural local project mode makes so much sense is when you're working in the local project mode, you have all the features that you wouldn't normally have available to you, like the debug. If you want to start instituting that style, which is a way of making sure all your programs adhere to certain standards, they're all available from this over here. We have Profiler. If you want to start testing programs against CPU usage, whatever, you can use the natural profiler for that down here in the local projects. And you can also start doing unit testing if you want to start creating some unit tests for new programs. And again, it is the base for DevOps. So if your company decides to start using DevOps for natural, there'll probably be a repository running within the same LUW environment as your NaturalONE. And then, of course, you'll be able to check your code into a DevOps repository. But that's a separate subject. We have videos of that actually on the Software AG website already. But working at this level gives you that option already, because you'd even see over here, if I do a right click, there's something called Team. And if I did have a repository out here for DevOps, I'd be able to share my project with that repository. So that is the end of the demo. So Will, I think we can move to question time if there is any. As we say, this PowerPoint will be sent out to everybody. And if you also have any questions that you would like to send out to the fact, you're welcome to do that. It is recorded.
Okay.
So.
Sorry about that, Patrick. I have lots of questions. So I didn't.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that.
Uh-oh.
All right, let's get to it. We're going to just go from the manner by which we got them. So first one, what do you need to do to the NPM so that it has a port available to MAP Eclipse to?
That would be something you'd work with your network people to allow a certain port to be associated with the natural development server. And that port would have to be opened by them so that you can map to it. That would be a network person's question, or if they've got all their ports blocked, they're going to have to unblock that port so that Natural can connect to it through the Natural Development Server.
Okay. Next question I have. Are you able to access the application main menu from the editor?
The only way you can do that well, let me explain. What's happening with NaturalONE is everything on the mainframe, if you logged onto the mainframe through the green screen, everything would still be there. The only thing that's been disabled is the editor. So you can list your programs, but you cannot edit them. Editing is now done through NaturalONE. There is a mainframe console available within, over here you'll see we have a console, and you could open up the natural commands. So if you had to type something in here like list program start, that would work. But if you're talking about a main menu, if that's a program, yeah, you can just write. Again, the question, I might have messed up the question a bit, but you can get to the main menu of your application just by running the same way as you would within the green screen. And it will just appear as a HTML emulated screen. And the flow would be exactly the same.
Okay. The next one I have, what are the meanings of .nsl, .nsm, .nsp, etc.?
Those are your programming objects. There is a way you have a preference to take them away, but basically NSL is a local data area, and NSM is a map. That's a program, local data area program. So we don't show them here. So basically, but you have the option when you load your project up here, you can load them under the same high-level local data areas maps programs. But if you're familiar with the extensions of them, then that's what they are. They're just a file type extension.
Okay. Next one I have. It's a bit long. Can I have more than one NaturalONE session going simultaneously so that I can edit a program and sub-program at the same time, similar to having more than one green screen session active?
Yeah. So where we map over here, you can map to as many environments as you want. You can map to the same environment by overriding the fuser, fnat. So again, on the properties, the session parameters here, you could go and say profile equals. You could have a profile for this particular library. You could have a profile for another library. But if you want to open two objects at the same time within the same library, you can just do that within this editor. There's the ability to have more than one natural session. Of course, if you just flip between them, they're going to just give you a different, I'll be able to go work in this one, or I could work in this one over here. But if I had two programs here, I can just open them both if I wanted to, and then I can just drag them across. I can work side by side. I can work on top. So yeah, there's nothing. You can do whatever you did on the mainframe, you can do exactly the same here, plus more.
Okay. The next one I have, I think it may have been a bit cut off when it came in, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me. And the question is, can debug be launched programmatically with set control test?
No. Okay. Not that I'm aware of. The only way the debugger can be executed from without being in NaturalONE is if you wanted to test a batch JCL program, you would actually start the remote debugger on your desktop. And then when you go and actually start your JCL, well, you basically bring up the program that you want to debug in NaturalONE and you'd set a breakpoint. And then you would go into your JCL and execute your JCL, and it would then pop up a NaturalONE screen and be at the breakpoint that you had set and ready to start debugging. Yeah, debug and the mainframe concept test are different babies.
Okay. The next one I have for you. Is there a way to perform testing locally without updating the fuser?
Yeah. If you work in a DevOps environment, you're allowed to have private libraries, which means you could have 5 people all working on the same library, and they would not be affecting anybody else, and they would not be affecting the actual version sitting on that particular F user. And the way that works is when you create a private library, it puts your library in front of the actual library, and it step lives to that library. So that's in concept that is how it works.
How much RAM do you need on a PC to use NaturalONE?
You can see down here, it's telling me down the bottom here, 142. I think mine is using, show you there, it's actually using 1 or 2 full megabytes of memory at that point, but it always tells you how much it's using at a particular point in time. It's only work if you're working with very, very large programs, but there's ability to increase that size if you want to. It's the Java heap size, so that's the size that you can set within the Eclipse.ini file.
Next question. When will Software AG stop supporting the mainframe green screen?
It has already. NaturalONE does not support the green screen editor, but with 8.2.7 will go out of support the end of 2020, I believe. So if you want to stay supported, the plan is that you would have implemented NaturalONE by that point in time. And then from then on, NaturalONE does not have the green screen editor enabled.
The next question for you. How do you execute a program from a library? That is command line.
You could try it from the console. It should work fine, but it's the way you would do it, normally is the way I've shown you, just run it as a natural program. But the console, if you type like the word sysdic or sysaos within the console, you're going to see the sysaos menu, and you're going to see the predict menu. And that will also come up in a little NatIO window within Eclipse.
Okay. The next one I have for you. How is program version control addressed with multiple developers potentially working on the same code at the same time?
Well, that goes right back to DevOps. If you want to do that, then you're going to implement a DevOps strategy. And then you would have a repository, and all your code would be checked into that repository. And then each developer would use the private library mode when you create a project. And they could all check out that same program from the repository, work on it, be at different levels, and then go through the normal DevOps concept of merging and moving the correct version into the repository or the F user at the different points during the development. Because as one person might take 3 weeks to work on a program, somebody else might take 2 weeks. They're going to want to get their change put in there. They will merge that into being the program of choice now. And then when the next person came along, he would have to do a merge and check the changes that the other person had made. And that's basically what a DevOps environment does. And that's all done automatically by a DevOps tool.
Okay, the next one I have for you. When the developer selects build, does that perform a stow on the mainframe if that's where the fuser is located, or does the build version on the developer's workspace have to be uploaded as a separate function?
No. The build is source and object moved and compiled to the F user. There's no concept of a object code in NaturalONE itself. It's only source. These are just source. There's no object here. The object's sitting on the actual F user down over here, which is on your mainframe. In this case, it's the mainframe. So I would have done, if I do an upload, it just uploads the source. If I do a build, it does an upload of the source and a stow. And there is a preference when you can do automatic build. One of the preferences within Natural is to do auto build. So every time you do a save of a program, it does an auto build. That's just something that you're going to either like or not like. Some people like auto build, some people don't like auto build. But it's a preference that you can set within NaturalONE.
Okay, forgive me. I am just typing away these questions as they're coming in. The next one I have for you. Do we need to build all existing natural objects before creating new ones?
No, because they're already compiled. So they don't get compiled within a local project. So no, you don't. They don't have to be recompiled.
Okay, the next one I have for you. How is NTO change management incorporated into NaturalONE?
Is that N2O?
They submitted the question as how is N2O?
Okay.
Change management incorporated into NaturalONE.
There's no change to N2O. You would bring the code down into a development library, and then we would work with it in NaturalONE. We would compile it. When it's ready to go back, you would use N2O to move it back to production, etc. So both with PAC and N2O, the way you use those are the same.
The next question for you. If an object is locked by somebody else through NTO, will I be able to edit it?
Probably not. The locking is, what takes away the locking is if you use a DevOps environment. It's no different to the mainframe now. If two people are working on the same program at the same time, you are going to get, whoever compiles first is going to be the one who gets there. You can unlock objects within here, so there is an option to unlock objects. Somewhere over here. But yeah, you can unlock objects if two people are trying to work on the same object at the same time.
The next question for you. Can DevOps and N2O work simultaneously, or does it conflict?
No, it does not conflict. Typically what we will see in a DevOps environment to start with is people would only use it to get the program back into the development F user. So if you say you're starting 3 projects and those 3 projects all had the same pieces of code in them or a mix and a match, and you work in your private library, the program's ready to move to development. Once it's moved back into development, then N2O could take it from there across to production environment. So it's called repository-based development. So the actual source code itself sits in the repository, but the F user will have the latest copy of the object that needs to move to, say, production or acceptance, whatever. It all depends on what levels how deep you want to use DevOps in your environment. If you want to use it to go all the way back to production, then it becomes a different architecture for DevOps. But if you're just using it to keep your development F user up to date, coming from local projects, private libraries, then that would be the way it would work. with N2O.
The next question for you. Will debug still be available in Green Screen Editor to step through code?
I believe so. The only thing that's gone is the editor. You'll see there's a new system variable in the mainframe called star editor, but everything else, I'm sure the debugger will work.
Next question. I apologize.
No.
Next question. Can we enforce only one person editing at a time in a module?
If you had some form of manual way, I don't know how you'd stop that. If you use the lock features of Predict, it probably won't let the second person get that object if it's already open. It'll tell you it's locked until the first person who's using the program unlocks it, it would stay locked. That way of using private libraries makes more sense when you try, if you have that issue with lots of people working on the same piece of code at the same time. But that's the same
next one.
Have with, yeah.
Okay, the next one I have for you. How would N2O interact with NaturalONE for checking out module?
To the best of my knowledge, you will just use N2O to check the program out, and it would go down into your development library over here. So this is my development library called SAG. Here's my program. At that stage, I'd add this program to my project up here. Once it comes back down here, N2O could take that back to the next environment it needs to go to.
Okay. The next one I have for you. When Patrick started a new program, there was a template. How do we define that template?
Oh, that's just a it's a feature of Eclipse. You'd be able to go find the different templates, and you could, if you wanted to add more stuff to that, that would be your choice. But all of that is documented in the documentation.
Okay, the next one I have for you. If the SRC file has 10,000 objects, what is the quickest way to find a specific object to edit?
You probably want to use filters if you know the name. If I understand the question, you said 10,000 objects in the library?
The question says, if the SRC file has 10,000 objects, what is the quickest way to find a specific object to edit?
Well, in any library, if you start using high-level qualifiers, it's going to take you to particular code, so it's going to be in alphabetic sequence. But you can set a filter at a library level, and you can set a filter below that to only show me the program starting by A, B, C, D. Yes, I would say filters. And you can see when you just type in, you know, like E, it's going to just jump between the different, the next program that starts with E. Or the next library that starts with E.
Okay, I have one more, so forgive me. I'm going to just squeeze it in. I've just got to see what it says. Oh, okay. That was somebody saying thank you. Okay, so Patrick, that is perfect. We have answered every question that has come in, although we will double check to make sure that they have all been answered. If we missed your question, we will be back in touch with you as soon as possible. But other than that, we are at the top of the hour. So Patrick, thank you very much for your time and for a very in-depth presentation today. With that, our program has ended. Enjoy the rest of your day.